Have you ever wondered what makes bodies tick? Are you creating the sexual reality you desire and require? Would you like to know more about what else is possible with bodies? What if your fantasies are not as strange as you thought they were? What if you could learn to be kinder to your body and kinder to others' bodies? Would you like to create confidence in the bedroom and beyond? How has your sex life or lack of it affected other areas of your life? Have you lost your mojo and wondered where to find it? Everyone has the potency to be a sexual superhero. Get ready to listen, sense, and play with the sexualness that is you. Now, here is the host of The Pleasure Zone, Body Whisperer, Milica Jelenic.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Pleasure Zone. I'm your host, Milica Jelenic. For those of you who are brand new to The Pleasure Zone, you might have heard a little bit in the intro about what we talk about. We talk about bodies and pleasure and how to have more of that in this embodiment, because that's fun, right? If we're not choosing that, what the heck are we choosing? So for those of you who don't know me, I'm a body worker. I work with bodies to create more ease in bodies. I also do a lot of energy work and other fun and wonderful things with bodies that would be considered the alternative sort of end of healing, the healing spectrum. So, and for those of you who have never heard of me before, welcome to the show. It's always interesting having new listeners on, and every show is different, especially with every guest. So it is today actually I have guests on that probably have never even listened to the show, which is cool. And a lot of the people who do come on have listened or have been on shows on A to Zen, so they're kind of familiar with us. So I want to welcome Christine and Ryan to the show. And
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. For those of you who are wondering, who are these guests and what are they doing on the show? I actually invited Christine and Ryan on because they're like an inspirational couple to me. So I first met Christine and Ryan, I think like 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember, but it's been a few years. And one of the things that I noticed about them as a couple was just like the crazy desire to keep choosing each other, like under every and any circumstance, which is pretty amazing because most people don't, and they give up pretty darn easy. So why I say that is they actually kind of they totally inspired this show, because I have not had any conversations with people who are paraplegics on this show yet, or anybody who's a lover of a paraplegic. So I'm like super excited to talk to you guys about what is possible for everyone and anyone, you know, who have use of the legs or no use of the legs. I guess this is like kind of an odd conversation, because you don't hear this conversation very often. I don't know if you guys
certainly don't.
Invited into this. No. Yeah. So do you have, like, in your lives, so I'll let you guys tell your story, because you'll tell it better than I do, about how you met and what kind of went down. I know your story, but I think when the audience hears it from you guys, they'll kind of be more endeared to you. So let's tell the story.
Yeah, so, well, it's about 7 years ago now that Ryan and I met. We met through a friend, and, yeah, we pretty much hit it off right off the bat. After our first date, we were pretty much attached at the hip from then on. So, yeah, we, the first couple of years of our sort of dating and relationship history was fairly normal, and we ended up, you were right, it was about 4.5 years ago, I think, when we first met, and Ryan and I had just previously to us meeting, we had moved to BC, and we had been in BC for about a year, and we had been, unfortunately, on our way home from a weekend visit with our friends, and somewhere along the way, bad luck happened, and we were involved in a car accident. It was a single vehicle rollover, just a bad luck situation, clipped the side of the road in the middle of nowhere pretty much, and Ryan was the driver and I was the passenger, and so I was ejected from the passenger seat, and that's where I sustained the spinal cord injury. So we actually had to be medical evacuated to Edmonton, Alberta. So pretty much I don't remember anything before the accident, and I pretty much woke up in Alberta. And thank God Ryan was there, and he was luckily not hurt whatsoever, so physically not hurt. But and then that sort of began the difficulty of sort of learning to navigate our relationship after sustaining life-changing catastrophic injury. And I was very fortunate because I always said, but it was never more true than at that moment, that Ryan's always been my rock. So during a time when you first hear that you're never going to be able to walk again, and you're, hundreds of kilometers away from your family and your friends and everything other than Ryan that's important to me, it was a very difficult time. And he was very unwavering in his commitment to me. Even though at times when I was still in ICU, I remember coming to and telling him, basically giving him permission to go, that this wasn't a fight that he had to fight anymore, and I loved him enough to let him go. And oddly enough, my number one concern at the moment was whether or not I'd be able to have children, because I know that Ryan was a born-to-be father. So my initial fear wasn't even to do so much with being able to walk again. It was whether or not if I could participate in his life and give him that kind of family that he wanted and that I wanted to. So obviously it was a very, very difficult and emotionally tumultuous time. But like I said, he was pretty firm in standing beside me.
After you gave me permission to leave, as you so put it, what did I do? I went to the gift shop and I put a ring on your finger as a placeholder.
Yes, that's also true.
So I said, that's the answer. That's how I'm going to address that right there.
And it worked. It worked.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. When I do remember meeting you guys and your desire was to have kids. And I remember you being told that, by regular doctors, it's not going to happen, right? So you guys kind of surrendered, and then I remember the call you gave my mom to say, "Oh my God, guess what? We're pregnant." It was like, what? That's amazing.
Yeah, that was a very
cool. High fives around.
It was an amazing surprise.
So it's very cool.
Yes, when I think of our desire to have kids and how that surprise was, it was a surprise. Your mom played a very important role in all that and really helped facilitate all of those amazing things that came after.
Pretty darn cool. So Ryan, I have a question for you. I mean, and I hope you guys don't mind me getting kind of down and dirty on these questions, but that's what we're here for, kind of get down to the nitty-gritty, because I think there's a lot of questions that a lot of people have that they just repress around, especially around stuff with people who maybe are paraplegic or quadriplegic, but as being that your lover is in a wheelchair, what was your, did you ever for 1 second in your life go, well, I'm never going to be able to have sex again. I'm choosing this woman and she has no feeling. What went on in your world, or did that not even come into your universe?
Yeah, to be quite honest with you, it's simple to me. That's not to say it would be, anybody else, but because of where we were relationship-wise, it was just that. Even the idea of having kids, even though it was something I've always, that was my pretty much goal in life was to be a father, but that really wasn't the issue. It was it's one stage at a time, and it was just, we're just going to get through this and see where life takes us, you know what I mean? And anything other than just making sure that she's okay mentally and that we survive it together, that's really all that mattered at the time, and everything else was pretty much secondary.
Which is pretty darn cool, because I would say that there are a lot of people out there who would have maybe made that primary, and would have went, well, this is it. This is what we were, and now we're not that right now, so I'm out of here. So many other people with less character or kindness or caring would have walked away, right? So, like kudos to you. Like every time I think about you guys, I get tears because there's just such an amazing kindness, like such an amazing caring that I think is lacking on this planet. So I love your story, and I'm so glad that you guys are on to talk about it. And I love where you guys are at. Like even when I was seeing you recently, and you're like, we're on to baby number 2. Let's see what we can do. Like, you know, it's on building and growing. What else is possible? Like you're not letting squat stop you, which is amazing. Like it's very, very cool. So. Well,
thank you. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is it's one of those things that when your life changes so quickly like that, you know, you just gotta push forward, you know, and it's that cliche kind of thing that, you know, it really shows you what's important. Well, it couldn't be more true when you've actually gone through that. When you see how quickly things can change and potentially be taken away, it's like, all right, now you know the little things so much become that much more important, you know?
Absolutely. So I have a few other funny and strange questions for you guys. So this is for you, Christine. So before you were in the wheelchair, like, did you ever notice, like, people would kind of look at you and flirt with you? And, like, did you get a different vibe from people before the wheelchair and then after the wheelchair? Like, do people give you a different kind of, like, attitude in a way? Because I've wondered, like, I've noticed that. Like, I've watched people on the street, and sometimes I just people watch, and I'm like, wow, that person in a wheelchair just got completely ignored as if they don't exist. Like,
absolutely.
Like as if their sexualness is gone, but it's not, right? So can you speak to that a little?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I was just like, I still am young, but I was younger prior to the accident, so I was about 24 when the accident happened, and yeah, I mean, people would flirt and things like that, and you would notice that you would get noticed, and I mean, not even just from, you know, members of the opposite sex or anything like that. It's just in general, people acknowledged you, and that definitely changed drastically now that I live my life in a wheelchair. And it's, first of all, it's very common for people to kind of avert their gaze because they don't want to, you know, address the elephant in the room that is my disability or my wheelchair. And then when you add to the question the whole sexual element, it's almost as though the chair negates my sexuality or my sexual identity whatsoever.
Yeah, I've often noticed that, just as an observation, and I'm like, wow, how fucking insulting. We can swear on here, we just don't do it a lot, but my mom has another client that comes to her, and she's fairly young, and she doesn't have a lot of verbal skills. Otherwise, I would have had her join us tonight, too. She's had some stuff go on, but she's also in a wheelchair, and she's a very sexual being, and I tease her constantly about, vibrators and sex and stuff, and she laughs. She's just, it's hilarious to her because it's true. She's a very sexual person, but most people don't see it. They see a wheelchair, so they don't see anything sexual at all. And I'm wondering, Ryan, from your perspective as you know, the husband, do you ever feel that judgment coming at you as or it could even be kudos to you, kind of the opposite. It's almost like a mixed up compliment, kudos to you for being with the person in the wheelchair. Do you know what I mean? There's some kind of weird, it's not Christine. It's not you're choosing to be with Christine. You're choosing kudos to you for being with a person in a wheelchair. You know what I mean? Is there weird?
Oh, absolutely. We get that a lot. Actually, I've said it many times that it's not the kind of thing you can say to somebody because usually it's them, you know, trying to be nice, but they don't really get that it's somewhat.
It's actually a big insult.
In a way, yeah, you know, because I had a way to explain it before, but I don't know. It's when people will say something like that to me, or give me, you know, credit for not leaving, you know, for staying, and to me, that you just do what's natural and what comes right in it. I should have been looked down upon for leaving, but it's instead people give me praise for not, and I think that's it shouldn't really be that way, but I know it's not. They're not trying to be rude or anything. It's just like you said, they don't really realize what they're saying. So you're like, you just kind of go, okay, thank you, you know what I mean? But really,
it's still
you got it wrong.
Yeah, it's still in a way, like it's still hugely judgmental, and it's so real. Like it's so real, and I just see it being so more real. Like all of a sudden, there's maybe a walker present or a wheelchair present. Like even going into places where people are being rehabilitated, for example, and there's walkers and wheelchairs, but like all of these people are not being seen as like the whole being. They're being seen as their so-called disability, right? Like,
yeah.
So what the kind of purpose of this show to me was to get people to stop frickin' doing that. Like, stop looking at somebody in a wheel, or not looking at people in wheelchairs because of what their own guilt or their own, whatever it is that's coming up in their world, where they just like turn and they can't acknowledge just being the person who's there in front of them. Like, so.
Well, here's the thing. I see it right in our world where we're a visual species, right? So unfortunately, that's a pretty hard thing to stop, right? People are going to see the chair first, you know. So that is what it is. But obviously, trying to change that would be great. But Christine, what's probably one of the most amazing things about her after the accident is that, and we've talked about this before, especially with, like, we just met new neighbors moved in at the cottage, and, you know, right instantly when they start talking to her, she's the type of person that you forget about the chair, because she's no longer the girl in the chair. She's Christine, who happens to be in a wheelchair. And she's a prime example of that. You know, like, I know, unfortunately, there's cases where people get, you know, brain injuries and stuff like that, and there's a whole lot more that goes with it. But it's just her legs, and everything else is fantastic. And in minutes, you forget that, because she doesn't seem like, she doesn't fit that stigma, that, you know, that the paralyzed girl. You know what I mean? So it's really nice that she can just talk to you in 5 seconds. And like I said, if unless you're looking at if she's in a chair or behind the counter, you wouldn't even know she's in a chair. You wouldn't, that mentality just wouldn't even be there. You know, and that's one thing that I've really credited her with, is that, you know, if somebody ever had not issues, but like didn't know how to take a paralyzed person, or been around one, you know what I mean, that kind of thing, or kind of leery, you know, didn't want to go there, meet Christine, and you'll be like, wow, these people are normal.
Yeah, you just have a really cool vehicle to get around in. So.
Exactly. She's zippy, too. She's fast.
And quiet and sneaky.
It's hard to shop there sometimes, though, because she's shorter, so I got to get her a little flag for her wheelchair sometimes, because I can't see her getting all the sales.
Gets you, kicks you in the ass from behind. It's great. You're like, how did you do that? How did you kick me? Didn't know that book worked. It's all your ninja tricks. I get it. She can really move those legs, Ryan. It's all just trickery.
Don't tell my secrets.
I'm so sorry. So, we're going to head to break, guys. When we come back, we're going to talk some naughty stuff just for the hell of it, because we can, because it's the pleasure zone. So get ready for that. Okay, cool.
Many of us have created a lot of limitations around sex and what we are willing to choose. Would you be willing to explore what has already been introduced as sexual practices on this planet? What else is possible beyond what we have already seen, heard, or thought of? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual revolution? Taking the taboo out of all aspects of sex, sexuality, and copulation. By tuning into the Pleasure Zone radio show with body whisperer Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on a2zen.fm.
What if there's nothing wrong with you? What if you're far greater than you've ever given yourself credit for? What if it's time to know the gift and the contribution you are to the world, and to like yourself a lot more? Hi, my name is Dane here. 13 years ago, I started to truly ask questions. Actually, I started to be the question, and everything changed for me. Asking questions opens doors to infinite possibilities. And it's not about finding the answer. It's about being the question. Always. What I'm inviting you to step into is something that Einstein, Marie Curie, Newton, Da Vinci, Gandhi, Picasso, and Aristotle all knew to be true. What if no question is too big or too small? What if anything is possible for you? What if together we could create a kinder, gentler, happier world? Is now the time? Go to beingyouclass.com and sign up for a free video series, My Gift to You. beingyouclass.com. What if you, truly being you, are the gift and change this world requires? beingyouclass.com.
This is the Pleasure Zone with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, please call us in the U.S. Call 815-880-8255-TALK or Canada 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at a2zen.fm. You can also make the choice to ask for comment by email by sending to Milica at milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pleasure Zone. I'm your host, Milica Jelenic. I almost forgot my name for a second. How cool is that? And tonight's topic is sex on wheels. It's not like speeding down the highway in your Camaro kind of sex on wheels. We're talking about sex with wheelchair, like people who are paraplegics, who are in wheelchairs, that kind of sex on wheels. Because you know what? This conversation, I don't think I've ever heard anybody have this conversation, not even Oprah, for crying out loud. So we're having it. And my curiosity, maybe she did, maybe with Christopher Reeves. I have no idea, but whatever, I didn't watch that one, I don't think. So, Christine, with the injuries to your body, so your lower torso, basically from your like rib cage or your lower back down, do you actually have sensation in your legs? Like if somebody pokes your leg, do you have a sensation there?
Not like you would. So the best way I can describe it, and the best way it's been described to me, is like if you tickle my skin on anywhere below, basically where your bra rests, basically where your bra strap would be down, I wouldn't feel it. But the closer to the area of injury, the more sensation I have, although it's not normal. Like if you were to tickle my skin on my belly or on my thighs, I wouldn't feel it. But if you poked my belly or, somebody punched me in the thigh or something like that, I would feel it. It's been described to me as deep tissue sensory. So you can, it's almost like vibrations in your bones is how I've explained it to people. It's got to be like a good impact to feel it. But outside of that, any gentle kind of touches or anything like that, I wouldn't have any sensation of.
That just gave me a lot of information, the deep impact. You can Ryan, tell me, you must be a thruster.
That was before the accident, though, not after.
Giving it good like a porn star, because he's got to get deep in, so I get it. It's all good.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering. Like, so because you've had a child, like, did you actually have contractions? Like, did you feel those? Because they're usually pretty deep.
I felt some contractions. To avoid any complications, they did a planned C-section for 3 weeks before my daughter's due date. But I did have contractions prior to the false contractions, not like real labor contractions. So I did notice that. Actually, one time I was concerned about it because I was noticing the contractions. So we drove all the way from Havelock into the hospital because I was worried that maybe I was going into early labor. But they said, no, this is normal, but it's also a good sign that I could feel that. And if I did happen to go into early labor, I would notice, because the biggest concern was that if I was to try and do it naturally, would I know that labor was commencing, or would I just have no sensation? And the other thing about my injury level, which is T6, which is basically, as I said, it's the upper middle of your back, and that's kind of like the cutoff line. So sometimes you can feel some of those sensations a bit lower. If you have an injury any higher up than T6, and like up towards your neck and things like that, you would have no question, you just wouldn't feel it. But mine happens to be in like the little fun gray zone. So the doctors and the specialists really, they weren't sure. So that's why we went ahead and planned the C-section ahead of time, although I could feel some contractions.
Very cool. Like most of my contractions for Ziva were in my legs, so that I just wondered, because that would have kind of been an interesting experience to have like sensation, that kind of intensity in your leg again, your leg.
There was a lot involved in the pregnancy that, like, not that I've ever been through one, but just more than you.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, not in this lifetime, right? So.
No, that's right. But you could do a whole hour, 2 hours just on pregnancy and paraplegia. Let me tell you, there's so much to that, way more than I guess you would have. But you don't know what to expect. I mean, it's not like one day in your life you go, I wonder if I'm gonna, have a baby with a paralyzed girl. It just doesn't happen. And you're in it, and it's like, holy cow, there's so much to it. You learn a lot. I'll tell you that.
It's different, right? So was your pelvis also like damaged? Like, was it crushed at all?
No. My injuries, I sustained some fractured ribs, and the majority of the serious damage was done to my spine. So it was a lot of compression fractures, like as though, imagine landing on your butt really hard, and that force that jams all of your vertebrae together and causes, that's what the majority of the damage was caused by. And then other than that, I broke my femur. But other than that, I mean, I was doing pretty good other than, the spinal cord thing.
So essentially, like, your pelvis was, like, able to, like, move pretty well and adjust to the baby growing and stuff like that, I guess? Or did they monitor that a lot?
They didn't monitor my pelvis or anything as much. They monitored the whole pregnancy. Like, I was under a microscope pretty much the whole time. And I had to go see 8 different specialists for 8 different things, all related to, it wasn't, the concern for the doctors wasn't about the health of the baby. It was always about my health. And if something went wrong, it would be with me. The baby would be, it was pretty sure that the baby would be fine. But if there were complications, it would be with me. So they did monitor me, but not specifically for things like that. But I can definitely tell you, my hips, they adjusted to the baby. So they're a bit bigger than they used to be.
That's cool. Mine are too. Congratulations.
Yeah, well, we're part of the club now.
That's right. My butt grew 2 inches in the last year, and I'm not even pregnant. So there you go. It's all fun and games until somebody loses an eye from their ass growing. So Ryan, I got a personal question for you, and I'm just wondering, because you were with Christine before the injury and you've been with her since, is there anything, like, from your perspective as a lover, like, is sex different for you, or is it essentially like the sensations are the same, or is it different because of the injuries? Has anything changed?
Well, see, we've had this conversation too, me and Christine, obviously, a lot of times after a few glasses of wine, but that's kind of a difficult thing it's not difficult to answer. It's just, it's odd, because to say, no, it's not any different, well, that's kind of a dumb thing to say, because she could move her legs before and now she can't. So obviously it's different. But it's not different in a bad way. It's not different in a strange way. It's just different because, for obvious reasons. She could move her legs and now she can't. But I think, fortunately for us, I think because we're so connected, that it didn't really make it any different. There is a difference, but it's not any different, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Like, it's all the same to me. Like, we got to go about doing it a bit of a different way, different style now. But, I mean, the connection is really what makes it good to me. So, and that's, if anything, stronger post. So it's fantastic.
Maybe you don't have her, like, sticking her leg up behind her head. Like, I can't do that anyway, but there isn't any of that kind of. Christine, you're not doing any, like, yoga with your body and, like, doing those crazy contortions, right? Although you wouldn't.
Well, you would be surprised.
Yeah.
Honestly,
instead of her doing it, I just do it now for her.
Well, honestly, in a practical sense, my flexibility is important to just like day-to-day life, like getting socks on, or, you know, I've got a short all, like my body's short, but my arms are short, my upper body's especially short, so I've always had to be very, very nimble and very flexible, and so that actually helps the transition into the bedroom and things like that, just learning day-to-day life in a wheelchair, and how that, translates, like I said, into the bedroom, and or whatever room you want to do it in. But
and I'm really strong, so that helps.
I know. I've watched you like lift her up, and I'm like, hot damn, my husband can't lift me up. I don't think. I haven't asked him to, but it's like,
well, get a chair.
Like, that looks like they could be having some fun, because he just lifts her like a feather here and there, boom, boom. I'm like, my mind is kind of going like, wow, he could probably put her up against the wall. There's like action going on in my head. I'm like, lucky them.
You'd be surprised.
I wouldn't be, actually. The conversations.
Actually, no, probably the one person I know that might not be.
I'd be like, fuck yeah, good for you guys up against the wall. What other toys do you have? Tell me about all your coupons. I need to know all of it. I was like imagining, I'm like, oh yeah, they must have a sex swing for sure, because it would be like way easier to put Christine in a sex swing, and then it's just like, I've got an imagination, guys, and it was like going wild into your like sex swing. They probably got more toys than me. They probably got more things hanging from the ceiling than me. You guys are having more fun in my mind than probably I am right now, but that's cool.
I don't know. I enjoyed that guided tour through your mind.
Awesome. So, Ryan, if you guys don't have a sex swing, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, Christmas is coming. Just saying.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
And they can be installed. If you don't know how, my husband can come install it for you.
I'll have to build a dungeon downstairs first, and then we'll put some stuff in there.
That's right, for sure, right? Because I just think it's cool. Like, if you actually, if your legs are not in pain being moved in different directions, like the positions you could come up with are just like probably really freaking cool. So as much as like people probably go to the limitations of like your body can't do this and it can't do that, but then it's also like, well, your body can actually probably do things that other bodies can't do, because they'd be like, ow, that hurts, but your body's like, hey, yeah, do it. It works.
Yeah, exactly.
It's cool.
It is.
So I guarantee you, all these guys who are listening to this show tonight, now and in the future, because there's a lot of people who listen later on to the download podcast, they're probably going, now, I bet you they're going to see women in wheelchairs, and their imaginations are going to, like, fly. How fun would it be if now there's, like, imaginations flying, like, you'll be going through Peterborough at the mall, and guys will be like, oh, yeah, her. I can imagine hanging from the ceiling, this and that. Like, instead of looking at, like, trying to avoid eye contact, they'll probably be fantasizing. It'll be awesome. Changing the world.
Well, now, whether they're actually fantasizing or not, I'm going to assume now when I go downtown Peterborough, that's what everybody's thinking.
Right, and they just can't look at you because they're like, oh, my God, I got ideas in my head. I don't know what to do. So avoiding eye contact because they're just too turned on. That's awesome. Too fun. I think it's funny, like, that people would. I just think it's funny that people negate that, like, from a person's body. Even like when people negate it from somebody who's like 90. Like I worked on this couple, and he was like 93, and she was like 89, and he's like this handsome 93-year-old. I'm like, God damn, you are like one sexy dude. But most people would look at him and go, oh, he's like 93. I'm like, oh, man, that guy's like, what a sexy dude. I think people miss, like, so much of, like, how, like, truly sexy people are, like, how sexy them as the being is, and, like, when they can see it, just like makes the world so much more fun to be in, rather than like the avoiding of eye contact or any of that garbage that goes on. So for all of you listening, I challenge every single one of you, the next time you see a person in a wheelchair, to have a fantasy about how much fun it would be to have sex with them. I dare you.
I love that challenge.
And I'll probably see you next, so there you go. How fun.
That's well, I hope you tell me about it.
I will. And then, Christine, we did this, and then we did, and I'll be like, wow, I can't believe I'm telling you this. be awesome. So,
well, I expect nothing less now.
Awesome. And Ryan, how great will it be to just like know that, all the men walking around are, fantasizing about you. Men and women are fantasizing about your wife. How fun is that? They probably already are, but now we're just going to make it really obvious. So,
let me tell you, she may not see it, but I already see a lot of it.
Oh, I believe it. So I'd like to hear.
Trust me, I see the guys and their looks, and I know what those looks are.
Because you give them too.
I know exactly what they are.
They're like, what could she do? Oh, I could stand here, and then that is right in her face. And I'm sure they've got guys. I had like ideas, man. I'm like, oh yeah, she's like Christine's at like the perfect height for Ryan to get blowjobs. It's like the perfect man. You guys set it up good.
Yeah, he's also pointed that out to me actually.
I just pointed it at you. Oh, pointed it out to you. I think.
Yeah, he totally pointed it at her, and she was like, "I'll take that." It was awesome.
Yeah, joys of being right at crotch level, eye level.
Oh my God, it's got to be. I'm kind of like, damn, that's kind of fun actually. I might borrow your chair for a day just for the hell of it.
It puts the world in a whole new perspective.
It would, right? Like you're always at crotch level. Fuck, that actually sounds kind of fun. But I'm not using it right now. But it's still kind of like fun to like think like you can kind of decipher like real bulge, fake bulge, real bulge, fake bulge. Like
oh, trust me.
You see
I was never an ass person before, but I definitely am now.
Oh my God, that's funny. Well, because you're right at the right level. It's awesome.
Exactly.
And the thing is, the beauty of it is you could just like go, oh, I don't know, I didn't grab your ass. I'm a paraplegic. I don't do those things.
Yeah. Then you can play the card when it's appropriate.
Oh my gosh, we're working it to the max. I love it. That is just too fun. Oh my God. I do have a question physiologically. Like I know you're in a chair, but you're not in it all the time. But so does that I've heard people get like sores and stuff from sitting and that sort of thing. So has that affected you? Have you ever had that happen, or has it affected you at all? Like to have sores on your legs or your bum or anything or your back from sitting?
Oddly enough, I actually have sore right now, and it's been a pain, not in my butt. It's been a pain in my ankle. It's on my ankle, but it's a similar kind of, it's a pressure sore wound, but I've had it for just over a year and a half now. I've never had one from sitting. This was like a totally unrelated issue, but
she's very active. It's just another part of the world that people don't understand. Neither did we until we needed to, but that's only from people who are extremely inactive. Now we say, well, you're in a chair, you're sitting in the chair. Of course, that's where you know what I mean. But by that I mean like you don't move a lot. Even just moving around the house in your chair, shifting your butt, getting onto the couch, getting off the bed. When you change those pressure points, that's when you avoid that. But when you keep the pressure in one spot, i.e. a pressure sore, that's where they come about. So I'm not calling people who get them lazy, but it's from not moving a lot. Even just shifting, stuff like that. So, and she's super active like that. She's always on the go. So that doesn't happen.
I've noticed, and like Oliver. So for those of you who don't follow Christine on Facebook, Christine Connelly, you can go follow her and see how active she is. All the things their kids doing right now.
Yeah. I don't have. I don't have much downtime.
No. What's that for? That's for when you're dead, right? So who cares?
Exactly.
I think that's a lot of a gift too of like life-changing experiences. Is like you really just go like, screw it, I'm truly living every day like to the max. And if that means sex swings and going to the park every day, that's what I'm doing, right?
Yep.
Like live it to the max.
Yep, exactly. Use what you got while you can.
I'm just going to say sex swing at least 6 more times in the show to really get Ryan to go, oh, okay, yeah, definitely getting on it. So.
Yeah, really drill it into his head.
That's the plan.
I tell you, I wouldn't mind, except if you spend 2 seconds knowing my daughter, you'd know that she would own it within 5 seconds. It would be a swing in the house, and we would never get to use it again.
Yeah, that's true.
I totally get that. You have to wait till she's older. Damn.
Yeah, I know.
Or just build the dungeon with a lock. There's that too.
Yeah, the dungeon. The dungeon could totally work.
I have no problems with that.
He's like, where is it already, damn it?
Yeah. Ryan's down in the basement digging a hole.
That's hilarious. Here, look what I got you for Christmas, darling. Sex dungeon. On that note, we're going to head off to break, and we'll come back and talk more nonsensical fun after the break.
Many of us have created a lot of limitations around sex and what we are willing to choose. Would you be willing to explore what has already been introduced as sexual practices on this planet? What else is possible beyond what we have already seen, heard, or thought of? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual revolution? Taking the taboo out of all aspects of sex, sexuality, and copulation. By tuning into the Pleasure Zone radio show with body whisperer Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on a2zen.fm.
What would you say if I told you that you could change your life in only 1 hour and all while lying down relaxing? Thousands of people all over the world have. What am I talking about? It's called Access Consciousness, the bars. The bars is an energetic body process that contains 32 different points on your head that, when run, assist you in releasing decisions about any area of your life that you have made solid and as a result cannot change. The bars is the first class in Access Consciousness, a dynamic set of tools and information designed to transform any area of your life. When you have a bars session, the worst that can happen is you feel like you had a fantastic massage. The best thing that can happen is your whole life could change. Go to accessconsciousness.com today to find a facilitator to schedule a private session or to find a bars class in your area. Are you willing to give yourself an hour to change your life?
Hello, everyone.
This is The Pleasure Zone with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, please call us in the U.S. Call 815-880-8255-TALK. Or Canada, 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at a2zen.fm. You can also make the choice to ask for comment by email by sending to Milica at milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Hello, everyone. Now, that was really funny. This is like 110 episodes in, and this is like, I think my very first episode. I knocked off one of my breaks midway through, and it's been like 109 shows since I've done that. And I just talked during my break. That was awesome. Woohoo! Having a fun day. I'm just welcoming you guys back. It's the Ryan and Christine show on The Pleasure Zone. We're talking about all kinds of things that are kind of totally taboo conversations that people don't seem to be having about people in wheelchairs, paraplegics, people with, even with walkers. But since Christine is her body is paraplegic and she has the fun of like rolling around in a wheelchair, we're talking to her about her sex life and all things like related to that, and how to have, even for people, say for example, people who are maybe new to the, maybe they've just sustained an injury and they're in a wheelchair now, maybe they're paraplegic or quadriplegic or something going on where they're having lack of movement. What kind of advice can you give to anybody in that position that kind of get themselves back on track so that they can feel more alive, sexually alive, like feeling alive in relationship, feeling alive in life? Like, what are some of the things you would recommend for both of you? Either one of you can start.
First thing I'll say is just it's easy to say now because we're so far along now. You know what I mean? But like, obviously, don't get down on it. Don't work against your injury or your limitations. Work with it, because that's really the most important part. Otherwise, it's just going to keep you down, and you're always going to be sad about what you can't do instead of what you can do. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing I can say is that's just work with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like behind your head, right? And then it's all good.
Yep, exactly. I think the one thing that I think is important, I mean, it depends. Everybody's got different doctors or therapists or whatever that they work with, and use your best judgment there. But I was fortunate enough that a lot of the different the doctors, my physiatrists, my occupational therapists, specifically my physiotherapists, they were all really open. Also, I connected with them just like on a personal level really well, and I was able to talk to them and open up about things that I was just beginning to understand, and to be willing to confront, I guess is the best word, myself, because obviously, after something like this happens to your body, your self-confidence and your self-esteem, it takes a hit, and definitely it takes a long time, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it never will come back or never be where you want it to be or whatever. It's definitely something that I struggled with before the accident in terms of self-confidence and self-esteem. It definitely got a little bit worse after the accident, but I've been able to tap into the resources available to me, and I think that has been a huge support network for me. And also they've taught me things and shared, experiences with me that, had I not been willing to open up to those people, I wouldn't have had that opportunity to absorb their information and to, absorb other people's experiences and things like that. And I think that was hugely, hugely important for me.
And not feel like you're alone in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you have anybody who was like, you could say was maybe like the most inspirational of maybe your care staff? Was there like somebody who like told you like a story that just was like the most inspiring?
Before you answer that, I want to say, first of all, I can answer this question aside from them, it's been both of us for each other. That's 100% is, like when people would say, oh, you're so strong and you didn't leave and all this. I'm like, yeah, but you have no idea. I wasn't the one being strong. All I have to do is lift things and move stuff. I'm hard muscle. That's the easy part. She's the one who had to mentally get through this. So it's, easily for me to say my inspiration was her, and I think vice versa. We had our roles in getting through this. She was the one injured, but we got through it together, and we couldn't have. The inspiration came from each other very, very easily. Anyways, I just thought of that, but obviously back to your team.
Yeah, that's very true. It's like I said earlier, Ryan's always been my rock, and that's never changed. And we feed in a positive way off of each other. But specifically talking about, sort of my, medical rehabilitation resources, my physiotherapist, who is in Peterborough, she was hands down the most invaluable asset that I had, especially early on, transitioning from, the accident to rehab to moving back home to Peterborough and continuing my rehabilitation and whatnot. And she,
plug her business.
Well, yeah, she works for Active Living Peterborough. Her name's Julie Manley, and she is honestly the most amazing woman ever.
Go see her, she's cool.
And yeah, she really is. She's fun and she's awesome. But she actually, oddly enough, had started her training in Edmonton at the hospital where I was evacuated to. So we initially had this interesting connection, but the other interesting thing about her and her experience is that she focuses on dealing specifically with spinal cord injuries and stroke patients. So that's a big background for her. So she had a lot more experience with people specifically in wheelchairs or with spinal cord injuries or with brain injuries, all these different things that, your typical physiotherapist probably deals with, carpal tunnel and sports-related injuries or whatever. Definitely the group of people that she tends to work with are a much more specialized group, and I think because of her experience working with different people, obviously she kept confidentiality and whatnot, but she could sort of relay advice that she had sort of garnered from her patients about whatever and, pass it along to me. And I hope and expect that she does the same with my experiences to anybody else who she encounters and can help them with.
Awesome. Thank you for that, and thank you to her for the work she's doing. And also, so I got a couple minutes left, and I just have one more question, maybe two, if we can get it in, is what is something that you would really like people to be aware of when it comes to, say you are the person in the mall that people are looking at or avoiding because of the wheelchair, like that's the first thing you're seeing, but what is something you'd like to encourage people to do so that they, or not do, or whatever, something that could actually create some change with this so that, everybody's getting acknowledged and, and they can go home and masturbate and think about you and fantasize, like what kind of energy can people be or choose, or do you know what I mean? Like what?
Yeah, I think the thing for me is don't be weird about it, and I won't be. That's the biggest advice I have to people. Don't pretend like you don't see the wheelchair. It's not a surprise to me. I know it's there. Don't be afraid to ask about it. Like I said, it's not a surprise to me. I know it's there, and if you've got the parts to ask, I've got the parts to answer. So
a good example is that's what we love about kids, because we get often kids will say, what's before mom and dad have a chance to say no, they'll be like, oh, why are you in a chair? They just come right out with it, and we've always encouraged that, like answer, ask, and she'll tell. That simple.
Yeah. Kids are really cute like that. I think it's really fun if the people actually, if they do have the, like you said, the parts to ask you. You could have the balls or the vagina, whatever is stronger in that moment, to ask you. That's awesome. And for those people who are who maybe are afraid of it, it's really challenge you to look at what are you truly afraid of? What are you running from?
Exactly.
It's so much of their own stuff that they can't even see you.
Yeah, I think and I could be wrong, but at least from somebody that was in a chair or that wasn't in a chair and now is, it's just not a road that I wanted my mind to go down. It's a scary, unknown road, and I think that's, a big part of why people don't want to venture down that path.
Do you ever just have a really good laugh with people and they're like, oh my God, you're in a wheelchair? You're like, oh my God, I am. When did that happen?
Yeah. It's my dad. He brings it up all the time.
Oh my God, you're right. I don't know where it came from.
I know, when I told him that I was pregnant, and he's like, but you're in a wheelchair. I'm like, what?
Dad,
that's what that is?
Oh my God.
Oh shit.
When we first showed pictures of the ultrasound, I joked with people. I said, look, no wheelchair. I thought that was clever.
It is clever. I like it. Oh man, I think I'd become so sarcastically funny if I was ever in that position. After some major healing, I'd probably be like, "Oh my God, I have a wheelchair. I had no idea what happened." People can be so weird about it, right? So,
oh yeah,
you could totally F with people too.
Yeah, I encourage you guys to stop being weirdos and acknowledge people. I think there was even a U.S. president that, for his entire term, he was in wheelchair. I think it was Eisenhower. I'm not positive though, but there was.
It was one of the Roosevelts from polio.
Was it a Roosevelt? Yeah, and nobody knew he was in a wheelchair until they started. There was one film of him that he was actually in a wheelchair, but nobody knew.
I only know that because I watched Pearl Harbor.
Right, maybe that's where I saw it. So it's kind of like, wow, if you didn't know, would you make it a big deal? Like you were saying, Ryan, because we've got eyes, it's the first thing we see, but if that wasn't our major thing, how much differently would we treat people in general if we just could see them for who they are and not everything else, not their body size, not what their body is in, because we judge for everything, like chronics, right? It's what frickin' planet revolves around that. Let's change that stuff. So we got 5 seconds left, and I want to thank you guys for coming on and having this candid conversation about crotches in the face and all that fun stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for choosing to listen to The Pleasure Zone. Milica Jelenic will return next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on A2Zen.fm. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by choosing to be turned on and tuned in to your body.